So look, welcome everyone to the MWA's webinar on traffic safety innovations. Just a bit of background. So about a year ago, I met with Zoran from OmniGrip. They came on board as a corporate sponsor of ours. And look, I was really enthused and I was really happy for them to come on board because I saw a really good cultural alignment with what they were about and what the association's about. The association's about best practice and teaching and learning from each other on approaches. And I've got OmniGrip as a very innovative company. They're trying new things. But more than that, what really resonated with me was the fact that Zoran and his team was totally committed to two things: innovation, but to fostering local innovation and solving problems locally. Now with COVID and restricted borders, I mean, maybe it was a bit of a visionary, but that's become a real national requirement now. So notwithstanding, I'm really enthused about today's session. I think we're going to see some really good stuff. So thank you all for joining us, those who joined us, to see what OmniGrip are up to and what solutions they've come up with to what is some really tricky problems. So without further ado, just a bit of housekeeping. There'll be a survey at the end of this presentation where you can ask questions or ask for more information. What I'd like to do, for the MWA, I'd like to do is send out a certificate of recognition for people that attended this webinar. So make sure that you fill out that survey and leave your name and address, your email address, sorry, and then we'll be able to get that certificate out to you. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Zoran from OmniGrip Direct to get this webinar up and running. Thank you, Zoran.
Thank you, Peter, very much, and thank you everybody for attending. Hopefully, my stream is coming through nice and clear. I think having an opportunity to have this interaction with you and show you some of the very innovative helps us nurture and foster innovation where you are on the ground implementing some of these possibilities. And together we strengthen Australian innovation, Australian manufacturing. Those possibilities are greater, safer roads and infrastructure all around. And also it allows us to perhaps export this innovation globally.
SmarterLite has three brands: OmniGrip Direct, Vivacity, and Safety Path. OmniGrip Direct, who is the sponsor of the MWA, is in the area of road safety and infrastructure, including high friction surfaces and coloured surfaces for roads, road safety, bicycle lanes, bus lanes, and decorative treatments for placemaking, as well as being an installer of some of the other road safety innovative treatments and devices across our portfolio. Vivacity specialises in traffic communications, including the LED safety tactiles that Gary will talk about, some of the hybrid LED and photoluminescent technology, and some digital signs. And Safety Path, which is Zoran leads, specialises in photoluminescent road safety, in particular lines and signs, and its origins in the building sector for exit signs. So the agenda will be Zoran, who's our Chief Technology Officer, talking about transforming nighttime road safety with photoluminescence and some of the exciting developments in that area, followed by Gary talking about hybrid photoluminescent and LED technology and LEDs in pavement markers and a plug-and-play solar light. And then Aaron will talk to us about OmniGrip Direct and its high friction and coloured surfaces, particularly using recycled materials. So with that, I might try passing back to you, Zoran, and we'll see if we can hear you this time.
Yeah, I'm back on. So can you all hear me?
Yeah, I certainly can. You're much clearer.
All right, my apologies. And this is the sort of thing we're dealing with. It could be just a lot of people logging on in the region. I'm in Sydney at the moment. So all right, I'll try again. And Dave, if I cut out, you'll have to take over again. So I'll share my screen once again, everybody. So I'll now go into the relevant sort of background and work we're doing in terms of a safety path and innovation that we're looking in that area, utilizing the technology of photoluminescent. So night driving is more risky than day, and the visibility is limited. The possibility to detect and respond to potential dangers is reduced. These are factors in terms of general nighttime driving, and statistics. Some 1,242 people over a 10-year period died on roads during this time. Being 38% of people die at night, national aerial roads and local roads. There is also a study out of Sweden that darkness is a third most biggest contributor to road crashes and road fatality at night. So it's a serious concern. What we try and do is look at technology that could make our and line marking. Possibilities in this area is the fact that the technology in photoluminescence has advanced. Exit signage now, which used to be totally electric, can make technology. And in essence, photoluminescence those photons and stores them and allows you to make visible light for signage and pathways. So this example you can see on the screen is an exit sign which has no wiring to it, and then is able to provide light in a blackout, giving it a much more sustainable, innovative solution, reducing complexity. When we talk about complexity, on this next particular slide, we look at the old technology with all the complexities in terms of wiring, circuitry, and all that goes into a particular sign, and that has follow waste and other issues. And we bring all that complexity into a simplicity of a wafer system that absorbs photons and is able to provide a visible sign after the fact. So that gives us a whole new opportunity to innovate in how we see our roads in terms of better, safer. Now, one of the things in terms of this technology, if we look at what they consider visible or safe enough around the world, in Europe, the marker for safety of signage visibility using photoluminescent is at what's called 2.8 millicandelas per meter squared. We can elaborate on this, and if you have further questions following this presentation, we can interact with you, give you some background. What does this all mean? But essentially, it's what does the human eye see, and how strong should it be for best visibility? So in Europe, they're at 2.8 millicandelas for visibility. In USA, they're at 5 millicandelas. And in Australia, we're at 30 millicandelas. So Australia was kind of late coming on board with photoluminescence in terms of infrastructure, but they've given the biggest benchmark. And then when we look at where we are in our performance, we way surpass even the local requirements. And our aim is to really make light from photons all night long in the future. So we are now able to provide systems which are very, very high performing and give you great possibilities in road safety, signage, road safety, line marking, and so forth. One of these solutions, as you can see in this next slide, is your signage. So what happens with signage? That means all the high grade class 1W, or however you refer to it, high end reflectivity requirements, but also self-illumination. Because reflectivity is only good when you have the light at the right angle coming into it to get reflectivity. By having self-illumination, then if you're going around curves, going up and down, you're going to have a better visibility of a particular sign. These signs are the possibilities of a whole range of warning signs on roads and sort of general signs, but also possibilities in terms of greater wayfinding or street signage, for example, to identify your streets when you don't have any lights on them at times. So it lets a road user be able to focus on the road because they can see certain signage easier than usual. This next slide shows you a bit of a sort of solution option that we provide utilizing in our technology. So if you have like a black spot, a turn somewhere, we have a whole range of products in our collective that we can provide through Omni with the high friction surface treatment, allowing you to stay on the road better and make the turn. Then we have a whole range of photoluminescent hybrid LED systems that keep our photoluminescence at the peak performance. So if there's some critical signs on a bend, we can keep them at the peak performance to keep the photoluminescent level at the highest level of performance through the LED hybrid setup. And then we have a whole range of line marking that lets you see the curve a bit better. I mean, adverse weather conditions, when you have like rain and so forth, where reflectivity again can be a bit distorted, self-illumination gives you greater properties in that area. And then we have also hybrid markers, and we have solar stud lights, which can all contribute toward the safer navigation of a road in dark environments. This is another solution if you have an intersection where you can utilize photoluminescent or some of the Vivacity, very, very efficient light signage that can be introduced to provide safer visibility in particular spots, or they may be considered black spots or high traffic spots that require greater safety, with also, again, high friction surfaces allowing for braking in case there's somebody comes out on the road and in an inappropriate time, gives you that benefit as well. So we have a collective of solutions that we can provide already now, and I will go into programs that we are already doing. But by working with municipality workers, there's a lot of feedback. It's a feedback loop that can be generated, that can be valuable to all concerned. And again, grow Australian innovation, grow manufacturing, and also safety on all our roads, and benefits for local communities that you guys are looking after. This is a particular program. This particular next picture is a program we presented. We got engaged by RRV, Vic Roads and Rural Roads Victoria, on the Great Ocean Road to look at safety. The next bumper sort of markers here, there for your sound markings and getting in. Can you still hear me? Yep. Okay. So in terms of, we have the yellow markers here, we have the normal line marking, and over here on the right, we have our white light system, and on the left, we have our pure light system. Now you will see on the next interaction what happens in the blackout. You're losing all the yellow markers and all the normal line marking, and you can see how our systems are coming through and are providing extra visibility. Now, this is an important thing. If we like this, it gives you massive opportunities for greater visibility in all sorts of dark weather conditions. To elaborate, there's often queries about what we mean by pure light and white light. So in a scenario over here, we have pure light. Now, what that line ends up being is looking a little bit more creamier than white. But as you can see in these two images over here, it gives you more illumination at night. Our systems with our photoluminescent technology in them. Over here, if you do want a white line, we provide a completely white line. You wouldn't know on a road at any difference at all. That gives you a little bit less, still great performance, but less performance than pure light would. So if you are chasing white, where there's no problem, we can provide that solution, and it gives you a visibility as well. As you can see, this line here, and that is completely lost in this area here. So you've got all this, something that's very visible under full light conditions, but in darkness, you completely miss that sort of opportunity. So I'm going to now complete my part of the presentation. Hopefully it did come through as it should. I'm going to, I'm not sure if I'm visible at the moment to the people, but I just want to show you, this is a particular patch of one of our systems that has a light. So if I just bring in a light into it, quickly introduce a light component, you can see how quickly our light systems react to this photoluminescent. But I think when Gary does his presentation, he'll add some other points to it. So hopefully that came through. Again, we'll have information for people that want more, and we can provide you with more information later. So Dave, over to you.
Right, we're going to, thanks for that, Zoran. It was a little bit patchy in places, but I think people would have got the gist of the message. But we're happy to answer more questions. We did get some questions that will come to at the end in the Q&A session after all the speakers. So I'm now going to hand to Gary. Gary's running an interactive session. So hopefully we'll get past the bandwidth issues and you'll see some of this technology that Zoran and Gary are speaking about in action in our showroom. So over to you, Gary.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Thanks, Zoran. My name is Gary Commane. I look after the traffic communication part of SmarterLite. Just making sure, Dave, you can all hear me there, no problem. Today I'll be talking about 4 technologies, which I believe you'll all find very interesting. The first, I'm just going to share a screen so I can show the Vivacity products. Can you see the screen? You see that, Dave? Okay, this is LED safety tactiles. Just making sure, Dave, can you hear me, everybody?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. The LED, this is the tactiles that we installed into the City of Melbourne. This is a project we did with TAC and Vic Roads. We started this about 2 years ago, and the first installation was done in the City of Melbourne at Little Collins and Swanston Street, which you can see in that picture there. The tactiles were initially designed to help with the problem of people not looking up from their phones before stepping onto the road. The Vivacity safety blocks are installed in rows on the curb side of the intersection, as you can see here. They are connected to the traffic pedestrian lights and shine the same color as the pedestrian lights to create awareness of signal change at the intersection. So when the green man is green, these are green. When they're red, they're red. When they blink, ours blink as well. So pedestrians are more cautious of traffic and have quick awareness of signal change. People with vision impairment, mobility impairment, find it easier to see the LED tactiles in the ground at their feet rather than a small green man in a pedestrian lantern across the street. Also, drivers can recognize the crosswalk light change at 30 meters distance at night, adding to the visibility of the crossing and the safety of the pedestrian. The technology comes out of South Korea. After installations of 90 intersections, the number of traffic accidents, injuries, and deaths decreased by 26.2%, 21.2%, and 38.3% respectively. The next slide here you see here is the installation in Melbourne. The images on the left are nighttime visibility, and the images on the right are daytime visibility. What we have done in these particular units is that we fitted into our control box, which you see here, ambient sensors. So these sensors pick up the daylight, how much light's available, and they dim these tactiles down accordingly. So during the night, these tactiles are dimmed down to about 70% of the daytime brightness of the tactiles. This is obviously adjustable, but this is what we set with City of Melbourne Vic Roads to make this intersection perfect in day and in night. So what is a tactile? Basically, our LED tactile is the exact same as a normal standard TGSI, which you can see on the left. It is the same dimensions. It has the same number of bumps, lumps. Everything is the exact same as a tactile block. All we've done is that we've added our technology to an existing tactile. Our tactile consists of 2 parts, which is here the base plate, which is fitted into the ground first. We supply the DC wires, and this is our top plate, which changes from red to green. Our tactile block is IP68. It passes all the slip resistant tests, tensile strength test. It's low voltage, 24 volt DC, 4.8 watts, so it uses hardly any power. To install our tactiles in the City of Melbourne, what we did is on the left, you can see the existing tactiles. We just cut these tactiles out of the ground. We lay a bed of cement into the ground. We install our tactiles. And as you can see here, we just run a DC wire under the pavers, up the pole, and into the connection point of the pedestrian lights. If it's a new intersection, all we do is we cut out the pavement, we lay into our base tactiles again, lay our DC wires into it, and connect the tactiles into it. So what I'm going to quickly show you now is what these tactiles look like. And this is it here. This is the basic tactile. This color is white. We can also make the tactile yellow, depending on what you want to have. City of Melbourne chose white because white seems to be the new color that's been used at the moment. As you can see, the top section of the tactile can be easily removed if ever we have a fault. There's a simple little connection here that we can just take out of the top, unscrew it, and then fit a new tactile into position. This is what the tactile looks like when it's illuminated. The tactile is normally red until someone comes along and pushes a button and it changes it to green. Okay, I'm going to go back to square machine screen again, and we're going to go on to the next product. You probably would have seen these all around Melbourne. These are digital display boxes that we put on top of parking meters. This is a project we did with City of Melbourne, and it shows that how we can make stuff, we can do technology to solve a problem. The problem with here we had with parking meters was that people were avoiding paying parking fines by saying they couldn't see the parking meter because it was hidden by a car. So City of Melbourne asked us, could we develop something that made this parking meter more visible? The first brief was just put a light on top of a pole, and then it went from, can you make the light flash? Can you make the light spin? And in the end, we ended up having a full-blown digital screen. This screen shows the parking bay number. It shows obviously where you can see where the parking meter is. And one of the other benefits too is that we can schedule 6 months advance content into the screen, and it can also be remotely accessed if there was a problem or there's an emergency to display an emergency message. The next product I want to talk about is LED stud lights. Now these lights are quite unusual in so much as the ones on the left, as you can see, have no solar panels. The benefit of this is that we can install these units where there is little or no sunlight. So the internal batteries in this is a very, very high-end lithium battery, and these batteries can last, when they're on permanently, they would last for 5 years. If they were blinking, which is the normal way these operate, the life of these solar lights, battery lights, is 10 years. So basically you just put these into the ground and you forget about them. A quick little look and show you what these lights look like is these are two very small lights. This section here is the lithium battery internal. As you can see, they're not on. They only come on if I put my hand over them. You can see it blinking. It's their ambient sensors, so they come on at dusk or dawn. We can also have one that is on day and night. You can probably see this. This is in daylight and it's still quite visible. We recently installed 5 of these in the new police station in Swanston Street. Right, just go back onto the next project we're talking about. Right, this is a very clever unit that we developed recently. It's a high efficiency, low wattage solar light designed to fit bus and tram stop flagpoles. This is the project we're doing with PTV. Has an integrated light sensor which switches the light on in the evening and off in the morning. It's a very simple, no electric, secure plug and play type fixture. At full brightness, this light provides 18 lux on the ground level. An activity sensor detects motion, and if there is no motion, the light's brightness will be reduced down to 70% after 2 hours, 50% it will reduce if there's no movement after 4 hours. If movement is detected, the light returns to the previous light level for that set period of time. The benefit of this light is, again, when the brief we were given with PTV, and again, I have a sample here. This light only weighs 5.4 kilos. It just has a very simple connection point here. It can fit on any pole up to 74 mil. So most poles you see on the road at 60 mil, this thing can just very quickly just fit on top of it. So it's a very, very simple plug and play system that can be used, as we said, for buses, tram stops, but also for bike lanes, walking paths, anywhere where you don't have power. These lights can very easily be installed. Right, the very last thing I'm going to discuss today is what Zoran mentioned earlier. This just shows a picture of this in a garden setting. You can see the light span it's 6 meters each side of the light. This is the light that Zoran mentioned earlier, and it's what we call our hybrid light. So what I'll explain a bit more, because I have all the samples here in front of me, is most street signs, as Zoran mentioned before, are like this. They have a reflective material, but our version is now fitted with a PL product. So it has the benefit of being a reflective sign, but also has the feature of adding PL into the substrate. As Zoran mentioned before, this is our technology. This is our PL wafer. It's very flexible. It can be fitted into any sign. So what we do with our hybrid sign is to keep this at peak performance. We introduce a technology called an LED wafer technology. This is a very unique technology which has a 2 mil thick light guide plate with an LED strip on the edge. When the light goes into it, what it does, the light comes out through the face of the panel. We fit this panel behind the PL substrate. We then fit the reflective material or sign on front of the substrate, and we end up with a very, very thin sign. This little device here uses very little power. This sign here is 0.5 of a watt. So what we do to keep our PL fully charged, we would turn this light on for 30 seconds every 2 hours. We would have a micro battery system in the back of our light, which is the same technology that's in these solar lights. And we would end up with a sign, if you can see over my shoulder here. This is a chevron sign that we made for Regional Roads Victoria. This is size 1000 by 780. Again, this thing comes on every 30 seconds, sorry, every 2 hours, 30 seconds, and it keeps it fully charged. So what I'm going to do very quickly now is I'm going to drop the lights in the office, and I can show you exactly what these signs look like and how this photoluminescence works. So just have the blinds going down at the moment. Right. So that wafer you saw ahead of my hand previously looks like this. As you can see, this has completely absorbed the light from the sun. Will get light from any light source. So this basically would go behind there, and then we would put our reflective material on the front. So what you would end up with is this, which is a fully illuminated sign. Now, also, say Zoran mentioned that we can use this at some of our road lines. I'm just going to switch the camera around so you can see behind you there. That's a picture of line marking paint. So there's two lines to the left and the right of it, which are normal paint, and in the middle you can clearly see ours does shine in the dark. Very quickly, there's a few other products you can see around the table, which all kind of shine very clearly. Okay, that's my contribution. I hope you all found that informative and enjoyable. And I'll now hand you over to Dave again. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Gary. That was really good, and I think it really helps to show people how effective the photoluminescence is in total darkness and how it absorbs light. And that's really good. It shows you the white line marking and how it disappears in darkness. But the photoluminescent line marking continues emitting stored light. So with that, sorry, I think, Samuel, you had a question about reflective and photoluminescence, and I hope that what Gary just explained answers that for you, that yes, items can be reflective and photoluminescent, and they'll both work, and it's Australian standard reflective materials over the top of the photoluminescence. So with that, I'll now throw to Aaron, who's going to talk about some of the safety surfaces. So thank you, Aaron.
No problems, Dave. Welcome, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the presentation so far. Thanks for joining us. My name is Aaron. I've been the business manager at OmniGrip Direct for nearly 12 months now. So I'm here to talk about a couple of key things that are of great interest to our business. So one being our high friction surface treatment and also our coloured surface treatment for bike lanes, bus lanes and pedestrian crossings. So OmniGrip Direct has been the market leader in surface treatments for going on 22 years now, and it's also a division of the SmarterLite group. Just bear with me for one sec. And if anyone is having any issues hearing me, please do let me know. So what you're looking at here is what we call the accident triangle. Now, it's split up into 3 key areas. So where OmniGrip endeavours to sit in is the crash prevention area. So what that means is keeping drivers and riders in their lane by having a little bit more control over the course of drivers' behaviour. So when you're at the error mitigation area, that's an example of that would be the use of a rumble strip, and reduced severity is when you've lost control over what is going to happen when someone crashes. So that would be like a crash barrier. So it's effectively like having an injury that and you've lost control over being able to prevent that. So where our high friction surface treatment sits is in this crash prevention area, which is really important because it allows us to keep drivers safe and retain an element of control. So what is high friction surface treatment? So to sum it up in short, it's a 2-part epoxy resin system that we've developed, and it's a unique binding system, and you couple that with our calcined bauxite aggregate. So what that does is make our product 100% compliant to the Vic Roads specification standards, which are 430, which are on high friction surface treatment. So the skid resistance value and the polished stone value exceed 70. So it's the highest in the market. The key function is effectively to increase the level of friction between the tyre and the surface of the road. So what that does is then advances the responsiveness of braking to then stop cars sort of going out of control and changing lanes or having a serious accident. So it's ideally suited for areas such as roundabouts, regional roads, sharp curves, freeway on-ramps, major intersections, and also approaches to pedestrian crossings and the like. Particularly prevalent on regional roads where you get a lot of tourists who are maybe not familiar with particular areas, are travelling, maybe poorly lit, and can have certain bends and sharp curves surprise them unexpectedly. So this particular material is really, really advantageous for those scenarios. With respect to the screen you're looking at now, the data and the analytical findings around the use of high friction substantiates the effectiveness of our product. So you've got a couple of different data findings there, one of which is Vic Roads, and then the other which is Simpson. Now, used correctly in the right areas, our material is highly effective at reducing injuries and saving lives, and that's one of the key mantras and real endeavours of OmniGrip Direct. It's about road safety and keeping everyone safe on the roads. Now, what I'm going to show you now is a video. Now, the high friction material is clearly evident on the left, and the standard asphalt surface is on the right. So I'm just going to play this video for you now, guys. If there's a little bit of a buffer issue, I apologise. We've tried this previously, but obviously there's been a few challenges. So hopefully this plays for you.
The car on the left is driving on a specially treated road. The one on the right isn't. Watch the difference as they stop.
So it's quite a powerful video, and it clearly says, and that 2 or 3 seconds can be the difference between saving somebody's life. So it's a really powerful video. Just excuse me while I come back to my presentation. Okay, so what you're looking at here, guys, is an example of a proposal that we put together for Regional Roads Victoria. We isolated, this is one of 12 locations that we isolated and put a lot of work into based on some crash data and evidence to suggest that there would be a very beneficial application point for our material. So we've put a lot of work into this, and we can do that for anyone listening, for your organisation. So we've identified 5 key areas where installing high friction is going to be beneficial to reducing the number of crashes in this particular area. Now, this road is a very, very windy road, quite dense, a lot of forest sort of surrounding the area. So access can be quite challenging for other mechanisms and methods of preventing crashes. So the high friction is able to be done either during the day or at night, depending on the requirements of the client. This is a good example of what we can do for you guys. What you're seeing now is a video about CST, and I'm just going to play this for you now. It goes for about 2 minutes, and it's a really good high-level indication of what our coloured surface treatment can do. So I'll just play this for you now.
Coloured bike lanes show space that is reserved for bicycle riders. They also remind drivers to look for riders when they are turning or entering and leaving driveways. However, not all bike lane surfaces are the same. The one on the left is made from paint-based products. That means its colour and texture won't last as long. Its texture wears down more quickly from vehicle traffic. That will affect its ability to reduce skidding and sliding. It can become slippery for drivers and riders if not replaced. As its colour wears off, drivers are less likely to notice the lane. Using rates and taxes, road managers need to repair it and reapply it more often, if they have the money, that is. The one on the right is made from a unique binding system that uses Australian recycled glass. It's called OmniGrip CST. It lasts longer than paint-based products. In comparable heavy traffic, it can last about 4 times longer. It maintains its texture for longer. It retains its colour for longer. It's been in use for many years by some of Australia's most progressive councils. Why is this important? A durable textured surface reduces slips and falls by riders, particularly when the road is wet. Texture reduces the risk of cars and motorcycles skidding and sliding when they brake on it or turn across it. It reduces the risk of pedestrians slipping on it when they walk across the lane. Using a surface that is durable for colour and texture improves community safety, reduces lifetime costs for road managers, and saves taxpayers money. That's your money. Insist that your council and state government uses OmniGrip CST. It is made by OmniGrip Direct, Australia's largest user of recycled Australian glass for specialist safety surfaces. Rider, driver, and pedestrian safety depends on it.
Perfect. So that was a 2-minute video of a really high-level synopsis of what our coloured surface treatment can do in the market. Now, there's a couple of things I'd like to touch on in relation to that video, primarily around the durability and the functionality of our recycled glass. So in many instances, there are a lot of hybrid alternatives out in the market, and in many cases, paint-based applications. So what we can do is offer a 5 to 7 year maintenance plan that enables us to maintain the asset for the entire life cycle of our material, and also amortize that over a period of time. So you're getting a complete solution, and you don't have to have the ongoing cost of applying paint every 12 to 18 months, because that's effectively the life cycle that you're going to get out of a paint-based product. And then it's a constant spend on taxpayers' money, and it's also not at the level of safety that it could be. So that's one of the key benefits of the CST. It's a solution that you do once, and you'll get that functionality of 5 to 8 years. And it's a recycled glass, which means it's going to last longer. And the skid resistance again meets the specification of Vigrode's 431. A couple of examples that you're looking at there are a school zone crossing, the cycle lane on the top right there, which is our emerald green, a bus lane in the bottom left, which again is our raspberry red, and then our pedestrian crossing, which is the Homebush yellow. And they're becoming a lot more regular in terms of our installations, particularly obviously at schools. It's very bright, very visible, and makes it very safe for children. Now, a couple of further examples that I'll touch on here in terms of what we can offer out in the market and assist everyone listening on. You've got forecourts and courtyards, which is an aesthetic advantage for many areas. We can do that in a recycled glass or a natural aggregate. Play spaces and plazas. So that's an example of a college where we've installed 3 different colours based on a design that we put together for the college. Which again, we can do for everyone listening here. The recycled rubber on the top right is a new frontier for us. It's an emerging product that uses recycled rubber, so tyres. So we're avoiding having a significant landfill impact on the environment by sending used tyres to landfill, and we can then convert those tyres into a recycled rubber surface. So it's very interesting, and I'm happy to talk to everyone about that if you have any questions around that towards the end. A couple of examples down the bottom. So you've got our cycle lane on the bottom left, malls and walkways. So that's again another design that we put together for a laneway, and it was quite had a very clear directive from our client in terms of what they were looking for, and we put that together based on those instructions. So I think it's come out really well. Now you'll see my details on the screen there. So for any questions or further info or samples or anything that you want to ask in relation to what I've spoken about today, more than happy to take your questions by phone or by email. And there's a couple of links where you can also follow us on LinkedIn, where we're posting regular content of a lot of our installations. And then there's also a newsletter link where you can get immediate updates into your inbox. So I'd like to thank everyone for listening to me today. Hopefully I've been informative for you all, and I'll throw back to Dave to close out. Thank you.
Good on you. Thanks, Aaron. That's a job well done. And thank you everyone for your time. We realise that many of you are at the forefront of ensuring that community services are provided during this health crisis, and your time is pretty valuable. If you've got any questions, please continue typing them into the Q&A functionality at the bottom of Zoom. We'll come to them in a second, and just while people type in their questions, I'll quickly sum up from our perspective. We'll then answer the Q&A and then throw to Peter to wrap up for the MWOA. So you've seen today photoluminescent lines and signs, and we think they're transformational in terms of nighttime road safety. It's much cheaper than installing conventional road lighting. In fact, most road agencies can't afford to install road lighting to the extent that it could be used on the road network, because it's so expensive and so complex to install. And the unfortunate problem is that every road light that goes in creates a new roadside hazard, which just adds to the cost, putting barriers around the bases of poles and the like as well. Fortunately for us, the Australian Government's Office of Road Safety has just recognised the potential for photoluminescent lines and signs and given us a 3-year government grant to progress our research into this area, so they can see the potential of this to make a real difference to road safety in Australia. Gary also spoke about LED pavement markers that can be used on hazardous locations such as bends on roads and intersections, urban intersections and rural intersections, but also green ones along the edges of bicycle lanes, so that people that are riding to and from work in midwinter, for example, and people do that, we could actually light up the bicycle lane to increase drivers' awareness of the presence of that lane using green LED pavement markers. As well as that, there's the plug-and-play solar light that can enable whole areas, parks and shopping strips and bus stops and tram stops to be lit within a day through a plug-and-play solar light. No specialist trades needed or specialist equipment required. Aaron spoke about high-friction surface treatments that can transform night and day road safety by reducing skidding and sliding in wet and dry conditions. And there's a massive amount of international research showing how effective it is coming out, and particularly these days, the Department of Transport's in the USA. Plenty of case studies can be found, and if you contact us, we can provide you with more information about those case studies. And finally, Aaron spoke about coloured recycled glass surfaces in bicycle lanes. It can also be used, as he showed, in public spaces for decorative purposes, natural finishes to just lift the appearance of a shopping strip, pedestrian crossings, a whole range of areas, and it's quite exciting what can be done. With that, I'll just quickly throw to some of the questions. So one for you, Gary. The lighting for the bus stops is very easy to install, as Samuel's noted, but is it vulnerable to theft because of its ease to install? So could you perhaps quickly answer that for us?
Yeah, it's held on by 6 bolts, but there is a special tool that you need to actually tighten the system onto the pole. But we're also looking to incorporate a little locking system that can do it as well, because really, if someone wants it, they're going to saw down the pole if they want it. You know what I mean? But it is, the tool is quite unique. It's hard to get one of them, so we think that should keep it quite secure.
All right, that's good. Thank you very much. And we had another question for you as well from someone just identified as MGS. Other tactiles, have they become necessary because people are distracted through mobile phone usage?
Well, mobile, the way we look at mobile uses is that it's something that is not going to go away. And we have to recognize that that's now within our society. We have to be able to accommodate for that. And these tactiles do this. They make people who are looking down at their phones more aware of signal change. More and more information is being streamed to our phones. It's not going to change. So lights in the ground is the next step to kind of accommodate what's happening in our society.
And I would support that our market research shows that there's many other beneficiaries, people that are short-sighted, people that are short, people in wheelchairs, or people that have trouble seeing the little green or red man across the road. And this brings the human-centered way, the very bright red or green indication of stop or safe to go, to the same side of the road as the pedestrian, and that's really important. And in an urban area, being distracted can be looking in the shop windows, talking to friends, or unfortunately using a device when you perhaps shouldn't be. But they're all things that, as Gary says, are not going to go away. And they're part of society and part of what makes our shopping centres and towns vibrant places that people want to be. So it's about thinking about the design from the pedestrian's perspective and not just from the vehicle perspective. And this product is part of the answer to that problem, making places safer and easier to navigate. Now I've got a question for you, Zoran. What is the life of photoluminescent line marking before it loses its photoluminescence? And I think an extension of that is how is it recharged as well?
I think we've lost someone. I think he's no longer there. I don't think he's there.
I'll just come.
Oh, and I think we lost him exactly as he had to answer the critical question. So yes, the photoluminescence is designed to be above the 30 millicandela per meter squared, I think is the level for around 2 hours or so. So its brightness does diminish over time. It starts out incredibly bright and it reduces. Now the level required in the building code for safety systems is in fact that 30 millicandela, and it will last longer than that at 2 hours or more. And then it continues diminishing through the night. So depending on how, whether you've come from darkness or a bright space, and your individual eyes determines how long you can see it for. It is recharged by the headlights of passing traffic. So every car or every truck that goes past, the intensity of its headlights recharges it and boosts it. So it will continue if there's a degree of traffic through much of the busy period of the evening. Now in road signs, so when people are perhaps coming home from their commutes into the evening and the like, their signs will emit the stored light with increased visibility, and they're reflective to normal headlights. So they're not diminished. The photoluminescence is an additive benefit over the reflectivity that every road sign has. So it improves their visibility. But if they're in a road sign that's critically important and the road authority wants them at maximum brightness all night, that's where we incorporate Gary's LED technology that every 2 hours gives a 30-second boost of light that lifts the photoluminescence to its maximum brightness. And that might be on a hazardous bend, for example, to ensure that they're really bright all night and not diminished, particularly on a low volume road. TXD, you asked that question. If you want to get more and get an answer exactly from Zoran, perhaps just send us an email or something. But I think we've covered that. Hand over to you, Peter, to wrap up. And thank you so much to you and the MWOA for this opportunity to speak to your membership.
Thanks, Dave, and the team. Look, really appreciated that presentation and look at. I guess for us, it's about, setting in some ideas there, some thought bubbles. Look, what I'll encourage our members to do, if you've got a situation or a circumstance, talk to one of the team at OmniGrip Direct. They can provide integrated solutions and probably some out there thinking, which mightn't be sort of evident. Smart bunch of guys. They're looking at what's happening in applications, their technologies all around the world in all circumstances. So, they're a resource and a great resource for you guys when you're trying to solve problems. Look, I really look forward to, we're in the next 12 months going to start really highlighting on and running some probably competitions about innovations that occur between our local government people and our corporate. So project-based solutions that happen in collaboration, because that's what the association's about. It's a core function about. So I really look, and I'm starting to get some crossing my desk already, and you'll see some in the Access magazine, which will be released next month. There's actually a story in Access contributed by the OmniGrip team. So yeah, look, I think we're in a very exciting time. Please fill out your details if you want a certificate of attendance. We're going to start recording people that have attended these webinars that we're going to run, probably every 4 weeks. We'll be running a different webinar now. And that's something you as a member can use to demonstrate to your supervisors when you're applying for new jobs or promotions or even moving left or right, that you're engaged in the industry and that you're looking to build your skill set, and sitting through a presentation like that is an absolute example of that. So I know we're all busy now in local government, so we might end it there right on the dot at 11. Once again, thank the team from OmniGrip and Dave for putting it all together and the effort he's gone to. And we'll look forward to catching up with you all at our next webinar in about 4 weeks.